In today's lesson, we're going to be connecting fraction of problems to multiplication. We are on Unit 5, Lesson 5. We're going to be able to solve fraction of problems and connect these problems to multiplication of fractions by whole numbers. And we're also going to be able to apply and extend previous understandings of multiplication and division to multiply and divide fractions. Before we begin, let's take a look at this vocabulary review. Let's look at unit fraction. It's a fraction whose numerator is 1. For example, 1/2, 1/3, 1/8, and 1/20 are all unit fractions. Notice that their numerator is 1. Turn to page 167 in your math journal number 2 and look at problems 1 and 2. Go ahead and pause your video and complete those two. When you're finished, come back and we will have a discussion about those. At this point, you should have been able to solve problem 1 and 2. So number 1 says to use the rule to complete the table. You see 1/5 of. 1/5 of 10 is 2. 1/5 of 25 is 5. 1/5 of 15 is 3. And 1/5 of 30 is 60. This should be review for you. Number 2 says to look at this function, machine and table. Compare it to the function machine and table in problem 1. Talk to a partner about what you notice. So I'm just going to talk to you since if you're watching this, you're probably virtual. Feel free to talk to somebody near you or at home, depending on where you are watching this. 3/5 of 10 is 6. And we know this because if 1 is 2, 3 will be 6. 3/5 of 25, 15. 3/5 of 15 is 9. 3/5 of 30 is 18. So I can continue that. If 1 of 25 is 5, 3 of 25 is 15. We can see that we take 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. 1 is 3, so 3 times 3 is 9. What we're actually doing here is saying, all right, this is one group. One group of 30 equals 6. So if I have 3 groups out of the 5, I'm going to have 18 total. Today we're going to figure out a strategy for solving problems like 3/5 of 10. So looking at 1 and 2 from the math message, the outnumbers in the second table are 3 times the outnumbers in the first table. What I want you to do is to construct an argument for why 3/5 of a number will or will not always be 3 times 1/5 of the same number. You can use pictures to help your reasoning. Go ahead and pause and figure out a reasoning. Why or why not 3/5 of a number will always be 3 times 1/5? So some sample arguments that maybe yours connects to. First one, I know that 3/5 is the same as 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5. So to find 3/5, I can find 3 1/5 together. Adding 3 of the same number is the same as multiplying that number by 3. So I can just multiply the number that is 1/5 of the whole by 3 to get 3/5 of the whole. Or maybe you drew a picture. If this rectangle is a whole, then this first shaded part is 1/5. And in order to show 3/5, I shade in 2 more parts. I can see that 3/5 of the whole is 3 times as much as the 1/5. 3 parts are shaded instead of 1. Multiplying 1/5 by a whole number by 3 produces 3/5 of the whole because 3/5 equals 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5, or 3 times 1/5. And if you remember in past lessons, we said the word of also means multiply. This should be bringing back some memories from a previous lesson. So for example, how could you use a similar strategy to find 2/3 of a number? Test the strategy out. Find 2/3 of 9. and 2/3 of 24. I'd like you to pause here and use a slate or use a piece of paper and use that strategy. So if we know what 1/3 is, what would 2/3 be? So pause and come back. Okay, so you can see my thinking here for 2/3 of 9. I wrote out the unit fraction of 9. 1/3 of 9 equals 3, because I know that I can take 9 divided by 3, and we get 3. And then we multiply that by the numerator there, times 1, and we get 3. So same thing, 2/3 of 9 equals 6. And what I did was I simply just took that 3 and I multiplied it by 2 this time, 3 times 2, which equals 6. If we were to do 2/3 of 24, I could take 24 divided by 3, which we know is 8, and then I'm going to multiply that by 2, where I'm going to get 16. 2/3 of 24 equals 16. Confirming your solutions by looking at problem 3 on journal page 6. Do the first 2 rows of the in and out table confirm that your strategy works for the rule 2/3 of? Apply that strategy to complete the last 2 rows of the table in problem 3, and then we will check over those. So how could we describe how to use the strategy with any fraction? A fraction with 1 in the numerator, whoops, such as 1/5 or 1/3, again, is called a unit fraction. That means it represents one part, a unit of it. So finding the appropriate unit fraction, first of all, of the whole number, and then multiplying the answer in step 1 by the numerator. For example, if we found out what a unit fraction of 18, so we would take 18 divided by 6, you would get 3. So then you're going to take that unit fraction, the answer of 3, and multiply it by this numerator, 5. So 3 times 5. So 5/6 of 18 equals 3 times 5, or 5/6 of 18 equals 15. Same thing, 7/10 of 50. We're going to find out what the unit fraction of this equals. So 50 divided by 10, so because of 50 divided into 10 groups, each group is going to have 5. So we're going to take that 5 and multiply it by how many groups we're talking about. And here we're talking about 7. So 5 times 7 is 35. 7/10 of 50 equals 5 times 7, or 7 divided by 10, or 7/10 of 50 equals 35. Apologize for that error in my speaking. So we've got expressions. We want to write some expressions to model the following problems. You don't have to solve them, just write out the expression for them. We've got 3 sets of 4 coins. How many coins in all? 3 sets of 4 coins, 8 rows of 8 stamps, 6 bags of 12 oranges. How many oranges in all? What kind of math would you be doing here? So you're saying you've got 3 sets of 4 coins. So you're going to have 4 coins in each set times 3 sets, 12. 8 stamps, 8 rows of them. 8 of 8, so 8 times 8, 64. 6 bags of 12 oranges. 12 oranges in each bag. 6 times 12, 72. So remember, this is just a refresher that the word of means to multiply. So it says, like this says, in each problem, the word of is used. What operation do we use? Hopefully I heard you say multiplication. Turn to page 167 in Math Journal 2, and I want you to complete problems 4, 5, and 6. Then come back and check your work. For number 4, It says to fill in the missing out numbers. Here you see that we have 3/4 times. What word can we use instead of times? Of. 3/4 of 8, 3/4 of 20, 3/4 of 16, 3/4 of 28. We know that we're going to find the unit fraction of each one first and then multiply by that numerator. So hopefully after you completed all that, you got 6, 15, 12, and 21 because 1/4 of 8 is 2, so 3 would be 6. 1/4 of 20 is 5, so 3 would be 15. 1 is 4, so 3 would be 12, and 1 is 7, so 3 would be 21. Stella had a carton of 12 eggs. She used 4/6 of the eggs to bake loaves of bread for a bake sale. How many eggs are in 1/6 of the carton? How many eggs did Stella use? Write a multiplication problem. So she used 4/6 of. Again, there's that key word there. Of. Of means, I'm going to write this here again. Of means to multiply. That's what the word of tells us. So we see it right here. She used 1/4 of the eggs. How many does she have? 12. So I'm sorry, she used 4/6 of 12. We know 12 divided by 6 is 2. So then we would take that 2 and multiply it by 4 groups. Take a look here. So we should see the number 8. So 1/6 equals 2. She used 8. 4/6 times 12 equals 8. And number 6, a shoe store had 30 pairs of tennis shoes in stock. One week they had a sale and sold 8/10 of the shoes. How many pairs of tennis shoes did they sell that week? So we had 30 pairs. We sold 8/10 of 30. One unit would be 30 divided by 10, which would be 3. If we did 8 groups of 3, we should see 24 pairs of tennis shoes. 8/10 times 30 equals 24. You could also say 8/10 of 30, but here we want a multiplication problem. And one more time before we end, don't forget that word of is the same thing as to multiply. Oh, that really messed up. Sorry. Ugly multiplication problem. There we go. So of means multiply. Before we wrap up, this is not required necessarily, unless your teacher asks you to, but Home Link 5.5, great practice here for fraction of problems. You can see that in your Home Links book for Home Links 5.5, great practice. Once again, we were connecting fraction of problems to multiplication. We were solving them, connecting them to multiplication, remembering that the word of means to multiply, and applying and extending our previous understandings.